Today's video, we're going to talk about how often should I refresh my ad copy on Google Ads and as well as Facebook ads. Here is the perfect amount of times to update your ad copy, your ads, your language on your ads to get the most out of your Google and Facebook ads. I'm going to go over this in detail, and it varies based upon the type of campaign you're running, whether it's remarketing, first click advertising, and whether you're talking about Facebook versus Google ads. I will go into detail on each one of those individual campaign segments so you understand how often to update, given that if you update too much, you're wasting your money. If you don't update enough, you're also wasting money because your click-through rates are not going to be nearly as high as what they should be, and you're going to throw money away on wasted ad spend, not wasted time making new ads or people that you have to hire to make new ads itself. So I'm going to ultimately help you find the sweet spot on where's that perfect amount of ad copy to make depending on where you're advertising, of which I will go through quite a few different individual example markets where I tell you exactly how much ads we made and what was the sweet spot for those markets so you understand how to do this for your own self and your own market. So I'm going to start with Google itself. Now on Google search ads, with this, you're going to typically have all your ads are just going to stay the way that they are. I get one of the most common questions I get is, oh, we're not getting results, Corey. Maybe we need to refresh our ads. And I roll my eyes when I hear that because it doesn't make any sense to me how they came to that conclusion. Your Google search ads, if they're not working, saying something on your ad that worked before, suddenly now it doesn't work. Why? It's not like the market has changed. People that are looking for pottery wheels today didn't suddenly buy pottery wheels a different way tomorrow, particularly when they're searching for them on Google and they're typing in pottery wheels for sale. The behavior doesn't change on Google search, and if you don't know, now you do know. So once you find the right ad that gets you the maximum click-through rate in your market, you stick with it. That said, you never settle for the same results necessarily until tested again and again and again. You're not beating the results. Typically, I'm going to split test my ad copy to get higher click-through rates on my search ads until I've lost 3 to 5 times in a row. That is, the ad that I tested did not beat the control 3 to 5 times in a row. And then I'll just kind of give up. I'll say, I'm kind of out of ideas here. And then the ads are not going to change after that. So you'll have all your campaigns and all your ad groups have the same ad copy. Before then, though, when you are still in testing mode at the beginning and until that point, you should pick one top traffic ad group to run your ad copy test in. Why the top traffic ad group? Because you'll get the most data on your test the soonest, if you will. And also, there's no point in testing every ad group in your ad account because you don't need that to get an idea of this basic ad that you want to test and language thereof, whether it will do better than the ads in other campaigns, given that you most likely anyway have the same ad in all the ad groups that you're running. Or you pick one campaign, of course, to do your ad test. But generally speaking, 90+% of the time, it's one ad group that gets the most clicks, or maybe 3 at most. And so we run a test. We see if that test ad that essentially half of the traffic needs to go through will get a higher click-through rate than the existing ad. And if it does, that ad is moved to all the rest of the ad groups. If not, then we just get rid of it. We run another test and another and another and another until we eventually exhaust all possible opportunities to increase our click-through rates. So that's how many ads and how often I refresh ads as it comes to Google search ads itself. The exception here, though, being that we're not running sale ads. Now, I've talked about this particular technique on other videos where you could take a standard ad on Google search and you can add a thing, particularly for e-commerce, but not only, where it says sale, St. Patrick's Day special, 20% off leather shoes. Given that the person is searching for leather shoes, the ad says leather shoes for sale, but it says you're getting an extra 20% off for St. Patrick's Day. This will typically literally double your click-through rate on your ad. Why? Because when there's 4 ads at the top of Google to pick from, and one ad says 20% off for St. Patrick's Day, it really stands out. In that particular case, how often we refresh our ads is basically once a month, or maybe even multiple times a month, depending on what market we're in and the stakes. Is there millions of dollars of ad spend a month that we're spending? If so, we'll maybe do 3 promotions a month instead of just 1. Typically, though, it's 1. So what we'll do in advance of the next month, we'll prepare the new search ads. We'll program Google Ads so that when the top of the month hits, the new ads for April or May or June will start showing up, and the ones from the previous month will be paused. And that way we always have an ad with a relevant promotion on it for that particular month. It works the best if you reference a holiday or something that's going on that month, so it really does look exclusive to that month. Better than just saying July promo, by the way. And we found that you typically don't need to necessarily have the actual discount code in the ad, because it takes up valuable real estate on the ad. You just say 20% off for St. Patrick's Day, and then when they click that ad, they get to the site. You have a hello bar at the top of the screen that says St. Patrick's Day, 20% off, of which you could program to only show up for people who clicked on that search ad. Otherwise, if they came to the site otherwise, they're not going to see anything at the top of the screen. That makes sure the person who clicks on the ad doesn't get a disconnect, and you end up with a lot more profit than you would otherwise. So I just wanted to throw that disclaimer in there. Now, when you're talking about Google Ads and remarketing, whether it's display remarketing, whether it's demand gen remarketing, how often you want to refresh your ads is never stop refreshing your ads. And it's not so much refreshing your ads as it is adding more and more and more ads. There is no point in which your remarketing will stop making more money by not adding more ads. Now, of course, there's a hypothetical limit, might be 500 ads, but what you do ultimately is you understand that if you do one remarketing ad and then add a second one, you'll make more money from your overall ad spend in your account than you will with one. And then that goes for 3 versus 4 versus 5. And so what we'll typically have, like for the pottery wheel type client that we'd had before, we'll have one ad that just talks about the finer points of the pottery wheels that we sell. USA made of high quality construction materials, so on and so forth. Then we'll have another ad that shows up that says, this pottery wheel's got a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. Then we'll have another ad that says, hey, here's a testimonial from a client. Then we'll have another ad that shows up that says, here's another testimonial from another customer that we've had. Then we'll have another ad that shows up that says, we're offering 20% off for St. Patrick's Day on all pottery wheels in store. Each additional ad that the user sees makes them a little bit closer to a purchase than they were before. And they really do work together in conjunction with one another, because one ad with a testimonial on it is probably not going to move you to buy something in and itself. But when you combine that with 3 more testimonials and 2 more ads that say why the product's better and 2 more ads that say how our product's better than the competition and so forth, it all adds up. It's like filling up a glass. And when the glass gets to the top, the person's confident enough to buy, and what you got to do is have these different ads show up for people in rotation that are going to get them a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer to a buy. Eventually, they finally, you fill up the glass in the top, and then they're ready to buy. That's what you're really doing. And then for that matter, most people don't even do remarketing, but if they do remarketing, it's just, hey, buy the product, and then that's it. And they wonder why it doesn't work. You do certain things to get the right person to your site in the first place, and then you remarket the hell out of that person to get them the rest of the way to purchase, given that most people who hit your site aren't going to be ready to buy when they come to your site for the first time. I don't care how motivated they were to buy. The only people who are ultimately more than half of which are ready to buy when they hit your site are people inquiring about emergency services that they need right now or nothing. If you're talking about any kind of product, forget about it. 10% are ready to buy right then and there, or 20%. The rest aren't. And where the real money is made is in the follow-up. You'll double the sales you get from the same exact people with really good follow-up versus not. And you may say, well, it costs money to do the follow-up. Well, not much, because you could have a banner ad show up for somebody for a fraction of a penny. And so you could literally have a 50 ad sequence behind the person who came to your site, and that cost you an extra 10 cents when it cost you $1 or $3 or $5 to get them to your site in the first place. So you now see why this makes no sense to not do any kind of quality follow-up. But anyway, I'm getting a bit off track. That's remarketing. Now, if you're talking about first click advertising, but specifically display campaigns, demand gen campaigns, the amount of times that you quote unquote refresh your ads is dependent more so, I would say, based upon the amount of whatever it is that you're selling is. If you're selling something less than $100 in cost, now this isn't a hard rule, but a fast one. Something that's cheap, like a mole removal product like that we've sold before that was around 50 bucks. We don't need to have different offers and have a different offer for every month of the year and so forth and convince somebody to buy this product. What we really need is, yes, we'll use more than one ad, but we just need the ad to show up for the right person at the right time that was already interested in getting rid of their mole. And we're good, because the decision-making process is not nearly as complex. The more expensive of whatever you sell is, the more it takes for somebody to need to go through and learn and do before they're willing and will commit to a purchase. Tying in with what I said before about remarketing, the more of whatever you're selling is in terms of the cost, the more you're going to have to do in terms of the remarketing. The same thing in terms of the front-end advertising as well. Ultimately, a St. Patrick's Day discount isn't needed for somebody who already was in market for a mole removal product and it's 50 bucks. They just buy it or they don't. Whereas if you're selling a $500 pottery wheel, they need a lot more convincing. Your ad copy then at that point in time should actually be, here's a 20% off offer for St. Patrick's Day on this pottery wheel in order to get a decent return on your investment on ad spend, because it takes a lot more to get a person to buy a $500 item than a $50 item itself. And then at that point in time, if you are selling that more expensive thing, you should have different ads for different months of the year so that you get a reasonable response from the people you're advertising to, given that the higher the response rate on the ad per impression, the cheaper your cost per click, and therefore the higher your ROI potential is. Typically, for any e-commerce, I'm not going to run a single display ad unless it has a monthly promo on it, because nobody cares about my ad that says we have pottery wheels on it, even if it's a cool looking product. What they care about is, we know you're interested in pottery wheels because you searched for it recently. We can set this up through custom intent audiences. If they've typed in custom pottery wheels recently on Google, we can get in front of them. Now, what are we going to do to get them to click on our ad right now? Well, there's a promo going on right now. So click on this right now. And then once we get them to the site, we can remarket to them. But that's what it typically takes to make money then. And so we sold house paint literally every single month. There's all the ads for all the people who are in market for house paint are going to see our ad for house paint, but it's a promo going on for that month only. And therefore our display campaigns work, whereas everybody else in that market doesn't know this or aren't going to do it. They can't monetize those users. We can, because we're giving them something that's going to compel them to click. This makes such a huge difference. And so in terms of refreshing ad copy, you're going to do it constantly for a more expensive item. Whereas a cheaper item, you're not. You're talking about services, by the way. It's really no different. If you want somebody to buy an expensive service, which usually they're over $100 by default, you're going to have something compelling there itself. And that best way to do that is to run still some sort of promotion where you're offering somebody something that you normally would have offered, and it's only available so long. You're offering a free consultation, but you're just offering it for the month of August or for just this weekend. Normally it's a $499 consultation that you're charging for, but this weekend only we're offering it. You get creative. Or of course, you do things like, hey, if we don't get you the cheapest rate, we'll give you a $50 Walmart gift card for your troubles. And you do something creative like this. Otherwise, they're going to see your ad for mortgage brokering services, and they're not going to give a damn about it, because they know they can just go to Google at any time, search for mortgage brokers, and get what they want. Why should I click on your ad? Well, if you're going to tell me I'm going to get a guaranteed lowest rate, or you're going to give me a gift card, I'm going to click on this just because I want that damn gift card and also want the cheaper rate. And that was a real campaign that we ran and was very successful and still running to this day. But you get the general idea of kind of what you need to do with display ads to get them to work in the first place. If you are running an ad like cheapest rater would give you a gift card, that in itself won't need to be updated often. For a lot of markets, you need to run a time-sensitive offer, and then that will need to be updated on a regular basis to make it work. So that is Google Ads as a whole. Now, when we're talking about Facebook, it varies again based upon whether you're talking about first-click advertising or remarketing. First-click advertising, what I've talked about on other videos, the best formula that I have for getting results with Facebook ads involves you have a parent campaign, so to say, and a child campaign. Your main campaign, that's the one that scales and grows. It has all your budget going to it, and that's got the proven ad copy in it. You have a second campaign, which is meant for nothing but testing. You do a bunch of crazy shit in there with the understanding that once in a while you'll get a hit. It'll get click-through rates and ROAS where you can get a decent ROAS on your ad spend there. And then you take that ad copy that you found that works in your test campaign, you move it to your main campaign. The main campaign now has a little bit more capability for you to scale, whereas you didn't have that capability before. And then you just constantly test new ads in that test campaign. One, because, generally speaking, there's always typically a way that you just don't know yet to get an even higher click-through rate on your ads. But more so, you need new ad copy every month with Facebook because there's only so many people in your targeted audiences that will work. And once they all seen your ad, it doesn't work anymore. So you got to have new ad copy every month just because of this. So just to keep up and stay on this hamster wheel that you have to stay on in order to get results, you got to be doing ad copy all the time with Facebook. It's unlike Google. You need new ad copy all the time. And the best way to do it is to have a separate campaign which just constantly gets new ad copy, of which you wait for 1,000 impressions on your ad that you launch. If it doesn't get over a certain minimum click-through rate, you just take it out right away. And then the ones that do get the click rate that you want and clearly get the ROAS that you want, then you move it into your main campaign, and that's your system. Your test campaign will get 5 or 10 different new ads a month. You find one of the 5 or 10 that works well, that goes into your main campaign, and that's what you run in the main campaign. And maybe that's the only one you run moving forward, depending on how small your audience that you're targeting is, or it's just one of the rest of the campaigns that you rotate through in that main campaign. So that tells you basically how you would refresh your ads for Facebook campaigns on a first click basis. Now, when you're talking about remarketing, it's something different. Before I get into remarketing itself, on Facebook ads, like we've sold mattresses before, mattresses that you can ship out in the mail. And in order to get that campaign to work at all on a first click basis, we had to run monthly promos, 20% off for March Madness or 20% off for April showers, whatever. And so we always had a promotion going, and that was the only way we could sell it because nobody cared about clicking on our mattress ad unless we had a promo going on. So we just kept the promos going. In that case, our first click ads had to be updated. So not only did we have to have a test campaign just to find different ad copy designs that would work, but in addition to that, all of them had to be updated with our monthly promo on top of that. So the amount of ad copy that we had to come out with for this company to stay in consistently improving the results was a ridiculous amount. When you're talking about remarketing, the monthly sale is also typically require at least one component of your remarketing sequence in order to get a decent result out of your overall ad spend, given that remarketing should always be 10-15% of your overall ad budget by itself, because you can't make as much money advertising to people only once as you can advertising to fewer people, but more times each. This is the power of sevens in marketing. You can look it up. This has been true for decades. And as a part of that follow-up sequence, you do a sale promotion ad, like I was mentioning before, but then you have also other ads that show up for the user. The other ads are what I call evergreen ads that are in your remarketing sequence, but then you have these sale promotions that are updated once a month. But also in terms of remarketing on Facebook, I like to do several other types of ads, and one of which is a customer appreciation offer. Like we had with a print shop that I worked with, every quarter we would run a customer appreciation offer, 20% off for anything in store for ordering this week. And we would run it and we'd get a whole shitload of orders, and then it would stop. We wouldn't run it for 3 months legitimately. Then after 3 months, we would run it again. What this does is it sucks out all the potential orders out of our customer base, because we just targeted our customers with it, of course. A lot of people would say, why am I going to do that? They were going to order anyway. Reality is, if you don't do this, your competitors are going to poach a certain percentage of those people that have done business with you in the past and weren't even mad at you or anything, because you didn't aggressively keep reselling the same customers over and over again. And you may not want to give a discount to somebody who would have bought again anyway, but if you don't, again, you're going to lose whether it's 10%, 20%, 30% of your customers on every reorder that they normally would have had to make anyway if you don't market your customer list. So you throw them a bone to make sure instead of the average person buying 2 times from you, they buy on average 6 times from you, because you always are just aggressively hammering that customer list. And the best way I found to do it is a so-called customer appreciation offer, where you're offering whether it's 15% off, 30%, whatever it takes to guarantee essentially every customer is going to come come back to you and order from you the second, third, fourth, fifth time, or what have you. Another way, by the way, to do this is gift cards. Specifically around Mother's Day or Christmas, you run a gift card promotion. You offer essentially to sell gift cards and you sell them at a discount. So you're going to give people a $100 gift card for $80. They right away buy them all, and then you've locked down the future purchases from those customers. Or they give it to somebody legitimately, and then that customer now comes in, they buy from you, and then another customer that you wouldn't have had it before. You got like a 2-for-1. You got the customer to buy again, and then you got a new customer out of it. Either way, you ultimately won. We use that all the time on Facebook. We also will do remarketing, cart abandonment remarketing campaigns. With that, if somebody gets to the shopping cart and they don't buy, we'll have an ad that says, for the next 60 minutes, we'll give you an extra 5% off your order or 10% off your order for putting your orders there right now and using code CART10. And you may say again, like before, why do I give them 10% when they were going to probably come back and buy anyway? The reality is, if you don't do that, less than a third of those people are going to come back and buy. You're much better off giving them an extra 10% off their order and locking down that order, and it's highly, highly effective doing this. It's just like with email retargeting. Almost everybody understands that runs and has an e-commerce store that you send an email to people who abandoned cart. But they never really talk about or think about, why not advertise to that same person so you could do a similar thing as you're doing through email that works, but will work 10 times more because they're guaranteed to see the ad. And whereas they wouldn't have been necessarily guaranteed to see your email that's fired off from your shopping cart backend, which is legitimately what it is. Anything, by the way, that works in an email, whether you're sending a customer appreciation email offer in an email, whatever it is, you will get 10 times the sales that it produces through email through having ads targeting that same audience with the same message, because it's guaranteed to be seen, and not only just once, but over and over again. And it costs a penny to have a Facebook ad show up for somebody, so you could have it show up for them 10 times versus one time. Maybe they see it, maybe they don't. If they see it, they saw it once and that's it. You got cart abandonment ads, which those don't refresh. The customer appreciation offers have to refresh every 90 days for it to work properly, because if you have the same ad every time, people are not going to be as excited about it as if they saw one for fall, has fall leaves on the ad, and then customer appreciation in the winter, snowflakes. That works much better. So therefore, you want to refresh it, the design of it each time. But also with remarketing, you're going to still have your value building ads. Why we're better. How we're better than the competition specifically. We've been independently tested. Here's what the results were. Mentioning that in an ad. And if you click on it, you take them to a detailed blog post showing how a third party independently reviewed your product and how good it is. And also, you've done a direct comparison between your product and your competitor's product. And then you reference that in the ad and drive them to another blog post that shows those results. This is the type of information the consumer is begging you for, that you don't provide them because you're opposed to it or don't know to do it or whatever. When people are looking to buy and they don't buy when they come to your site, ultimately put yourself in the user's shoes. I don't know that this is the best pottery wheel to buy. There's like 500 of them online I can buy. How do I know to buy this one? I would be pretty damn convinced if you came at me and you said, I tested all 500 pottery wheels and we're proven we're the best one in terms of speed, durability, and you showed me the information. Then I'm just going to buy from you. But almost nobody does this. And then you can make sure every single person who has been to your site sees it, or if you need to, somebody who's been on the site for at least a minute, 2 minutes, been on more than one page of the website, indicating that they're not just any user, but a highly interested user, which will convert at a higher rate. You can do this. So this is something I do on the companies that I am part investors in. And we do it a lot for the clients where we can get cooperation from the client, because some of the stuff we can't do at our ad agency. Anyway, when it comes to the value building ads, it's not so much a refresh as here's another piece. Each piece that we add to our remarketing sequence, the more sales we make from the same ad spend, given that we're always going to spend 10-15% of our ad budget on remarketing. That 15% though can be spread out between 10 ads versus 2, and we'll get more out of that 15% spending it on 10 ads versus 2, because the additional variety just always is going to increase impact. Because if you saw the same ad 10 times, it's just not as impactful as seeing 10 ads once, if you will, because people, they see it the third time, fourth time. A lot of times they need to see an ad, by the way, just to take it seriously. Yes, that's the case, but still, if you saw reason number 1 to buy, and then reason number 2 to buy, and then reason number 3 to buy, it's a lot more impactful than here's a reason to buy, and then you've seen it 10 times. Generally speaking, the rule of 7 applies. That is, people typically buy the most, and when they've seen a message from a company 7 times, that's true, but you amplify it by having unique follow-up each time. It's just like when you have a bill collector. If you ever not paid your bills like I did in the 20s, did people reaching out to you asking, hey, what about this bill? At that point in time, each follow-up that they do, it's not just the same message over and over again. Say, here's the first notice, here's the second notice, here's the third notice. They do that because it's more effective than just saying, hey, you owe us. Use the same principle in your retargeting sequence. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you absolutely should, because nobody's talking about advertising the way that I'm talking about it here, from real world experience, doing it on dozens of accounts for dozens of clients, giving you the real on what's working with ads nowadays. So subscribe if you haven't already. I've got a great blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog where you can find step-by-step information on how to make money with ads as well there, with screenshots, with the step-by-step instructions to do it. If you like the channel, you should check that blog out as well. If you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, by the way, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, typically within 24 hours. You can also reach out to me through my Discord group. The link to that is in the description of the video. I also can be reached through my website at guaranteedppc.com, of which I do coaching and consulting. You can set up a call if you would like a private call with me to do that, either of those things. Also, I can talk to you about setting up your ads personally, in which we will not charge you any management fees until you get a certain minimum lift in your profitability from your ads up front, or the strategies we're using thereof, of which no other agency does anything like this, which should tell you something about the quality of what we're doing here at our firm in terms of our strategies. And all you got to do is cut a check and we'll give you the results, and we'll take the so-called check after the results come initially, whether that be a 25% bump in your profitability, 50%, we'll figure that out and we'll offer it to you. If you would like an offer like that, reach out to me and I'll give it to you. Just got to reach out to me through my site. I also, though, by the way, have ad templates available. If you are in a market that we've been in already, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your market in another country or city that our client's in. And for that matter, we can tell you the results you're going to get with it up front. If you're interested in a template like that, and we've got hundreds of templates and hundreds of markets, I'll tell you what results we got and what we would charge for the template. So reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com if you're interested in this. It's literally like having a business in a box where you can just take a template, it gets known results, set it up, outsource everything, and you have a business already, literally, because the template's that streamlined already in your market. So anyway, let me know if you're interested in that. Going back to what I was saying here, in terms of the value building ads itself, where you have different ads, to give you an example of how we did this, we had a client who sold a hair regrowth helmet. So essentially, LED lights will make your hair regrow. It mimics the sun, ultimately. For that company, what we did that was highly effective was we would have different ads that just speak on the technology itself. The sensors in this product, it's based upon NASA technology, and have an ad just for that. And then we have another ad on there that would talk about how this influencer talked about the product. And we would link physically to that influencer's review on YouTube for the person to see the full review. We also would have a technical article that talks about how in the medical literature, if you will, or scientific literature, how light affects hair growth on a scientific basis. We drive people to a blog post on our site that talks about the medical/scientific articles that are out there and breaks it down in a simplistic form. Do you really know how light affects hair regrowth and causes you to regrow hair by as much as 9% for every month that your hair regrowth strategy with a supplemented light? And then we would have an ad like that and a bunch of other ads. Ultimately, that was the difference between the campaign that we were running for this client on an overall basis working and not, because in that particular market, and many markets like it where trust is a huge factor, you're not going to get somebody to come to your site no matter how good your site is and get people to buy in at a very high rate because they don't know who the hell you are and they just don't believe you. Where the magic comes in is when you have a whole series of ads that spoon feeds them little bits of information at a time on why it's so good and third parties that have said it's so good and why they said it was so good and and proof it why it's so good, and doing this over and over and over again. The big consumer product brands, by the way, all do this. If you want a great example, look up Snow teeth whitening. Their remarketing sequences dozens, at least ads, if not hundreds of remarketing ads that they have, where they show case studies and examples and this. So when you're going ahead and trying to figure out which teeth whitening product you want to buy, when you're trying to decide in the midst of it, and you saw 100 ads from Snow with a million different reasons why to buy, when the day comes when you're like, shoot, I have to make a decision today, I can't delay this purchase anymore, you think of them first, and they got the sale. And that's how it works. If you want to understand how remarketing works, that's exactly how it works. And people don't buy into it though, because they don't see people clicking through the ad and buying right away, and then therefore they say it doesn't work. If remarketing doesn't work, every billboard in the world doesn't work, every TV station ad that you see run on TV doesn't work, none of it works. That's 100% bullshit. You inherently know it deep down, even if you try to disagree with me. People see stuff, they internalize it on a subconscious level, and when they go to make purchase decisions, they do it based upon their subconscious thoughts, and that is all implanted by companies that run mass market advertising. Except in this case, with today's environment, you don't have to run ads on TV to get people to believe you like this. You can just have ads only show up for people that you already know are going to be buying in the near future, and just focus on them. And it's cheap, so why not do it? It's just obviously expensive to do the execution of all the different ads that need to point people to do it right. You need a product comparison ad that points people to the actual product comparison, not just, sending them to your homepage if you want the full effect. But this is all easily done if you wanted to actually put some thought into it and money into it. And once it's set up though, baby, it just works, and it works. And it's all automated once it's done. It's just like a good email drip sequence. Once it's there, it's done, and it works for years, and it increases your revenue for years incrementally on top of whatever you would have got otherwise. So anyway, that is everything I wanted to share today in terms of refreshing, remarketing. More of it you do, the better. Monthly sales, customer appreciations, those things, those related ads you need to be updating every month or every quarter or every week, depending on what you're doing. And apart from that, you need to be doing ad copy testing until you cannot test another thing and make any other winning experiments work for yourself on Facebook, on Google. That's what I do. That's what you should do as well, in my opinion. See you later. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.